Cameras are on the site, and let's cross live to the Richmond headquarters, the Tigers.
Thanks very much, Ron. We get the impression from being here that the celebrations haven't just begun. They've been going on all night. Already there are about 1,000 supporters here, enjoying the sunshine, having a few drinks and listening to the jazz band, generally just wallowing in the glory of winning the grand final. Club officials expect maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people to turn up to celebrate, mix with the players and relive those glorious moments of yesterday. The other important thing, of course, about today is the announcement of the club's Best and Fairest Award for 1980, and that's expected sometime around midday. So, until then, it's back to the studio from Charles Stewart, deep in Tiger territory.
Richmond and Collingwood played in a grand final before yesterday, was in 1929. And there's a piece of quite unique old film that has been made available to World of Sport. It was discovered by film historians Danby Salter and Jim Ness, and they've made it available to us, and we're very grateful to them. We thought that it'd be interesting to have a look at it. Before we do, however, Lou, it was a different system of playing finals in 1929.
Well, in those days, Ron, that the side that finished on top of the league ladder had the right to challenge because they played the final, hence the word grand final. So apparently what happened in 1929, Richmond beat Collingwood by 50-odd points, but because Collingwood were on top of the league ladder, they had the right to challenge Richmond for the grand final, which we still call it the grand final now. And Collingwood came out, and of course they defeated Richmond by about 60-odd points and became premiers for that year.
Okay.
Some very famous names there: Sid Coventry and Gordon Strang, and Percy Bentley and Gordon Coventry.
Well, let's have a look at it now, and let's see how it goes. MCG 1929.
Well, that's the old wooden stand there, Ron, too. That's was a very famous stand. I can't remember the name of that now, but I should imagine a few of our old-timers would know the name. And, Ron, they still got good crowds to the games in those days, didn't they?
A few people left.
There's the old green... Well, that's where the green concrete stand used to be. Well, there you'll see Sid Coventry, who won the Brownlow medal, incidentally, in 1927. I think Bruce Andrew might be on this side too if we have a look. There's one of the Murphy boys, Albert Collier, one of the great players of Brownlow medals, and his brother Harry Collier. And there's Percy Bentley coming out with the side, Jack Titus, and of course Jack Dyer's not in this side. He didn't start till 1932, I think. Jack Dyer played his first game with Richmond, wearing the number 7, the famous Donald Dunn number. Martin Bolger would have played in that side. Of course, the camera work is far different from what we've got here now, Ron. They were probably on a tripod or something, weren't they?
Yes.
Bit of whiz-panning there, I'd say. Some of our camera boys would be shocked at that. And notice the length of the pants of the players. They were more like Bombay bloomers rather than the tight nicks they've got today. Fellas like Buttles Cheswis played for Collingwood then. Harry Collier, Sid Coventry going for a mark now. That might have been Bob Makem. That wasn't Sid Coventry. A very famous name. George Clayton was another famous name on that side. They certainly move around pretty well.
Collingwood and Richmond in the 1929 grand final at the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
There's the boundary umpire looking again. He looked well decked out with a black belt on.
So there it is. Well,
there it is. I think it's marvellous, and I think we should thank the boys for sending that in, Ron.
Yes,
two again.
We certainly do, to help us remember the great tradition of Australian football.
From Tigerland, a fighting fury, we're from Tiger.
Right, in our grand final Coaches Club corner, Tom Hafey and Tony Jewell talking with Bob Skilton.
Well, Tom, you've been on the other end of it, and you've been out there when you've just been pipped. Just what was the feeling like yesterday with such a poor performance?
Well, it was humiliating, to say the least, and it was most disappointing because I guess we struggled from 10 minutes into the first quarter. You know, it looked like we were in for a hell of a fight. But probably even at half-time when we're 7 goals down, I just kept on hoping and praying for a miracle, thinking that maybe if we could go in to the last quarter only 3 or 4 down, we were still in it with a fight. But unfortunately, you know, Richmond had other ideas and they kicked the goals that we were hoping to kick in the third quarter.
In retrospect, is there anything now that you think you could have done or should have done? Selection, whatever it might have been?
Oh, no, not really, Bob. I suppose, you know, when you look back over, there's different things that could have happened, or we could have done, but, you know, we were beaten by a better side that were too big, too powerful and too fast, and, you know, I couldn't even go crook at our players because maybe they'd played their grand final the week before or something like that, but, you know, they tried their hardest. I'm quite certain of that, but the other side were just much too good for us.
Tony, when did the real build-up towards that premiership start? Jack mentioned before, was the real motivation a thrashing before the season started, before the season finished against South Melbourne?
No, I don't think so. I think the fact that we finished last season probably the worst Richmond side that had played for by our position on the ladder since about 1964. I think that we all felt that we were a much better side than that, and as I said to Jack earlier, we then set out to sort of prove to ourselves and to Kevin Bartlett and Berkey that we were as good as any side that had played down there, you know, in the modern era. And so I think it sort of really did start from that humiliation of finishing up on the ladder the worst side since about 1964 or something. I think that's about where it all started. And it just sort of gained momentum as we went along, and the players have been absolutely magnificent in their, well, they just desire to chase their dream and make sure that, you know, I just had, once the final started, I had no doubt in my mind at all that the players wouldn't win it. You know, you could just smell it around the place, and the sacrifices they made, without me asking or anything like that, just amongst themselves saying, you know, we're not going to have this and we're not going to do this and we're just going to make sacrifices. The players themselves doing that, you know, there was just no doubt that we were, in my mind, we were going to win the premiership.
Tom, the last time that Collingwood did what I term put in the shocker in a final, you had some wholesale sackings, I'll call it. Carmen, Thompson, other players were sacked from the club. Is there likely to be a similar operation this time?
Oh, I don't think so, Bobby. No, I don't think so. I thought the players had, you know, had performed exceptionally well coming up into that particular game. And I think they gave of their best. There may be a player or two that we might have to look at, but there won't be wholesale sackings. You know, the players, we've got to just keep on putting in, and I don't think we can ask for anything more. I think they kept on trying to put in yesterday, so probably back in '78 I was a bit disappointed with some of our efforts of 100% effort, but I wasn't that way yesterday.
You said during the week that you would not play suspect players. Why then did you play Barham?
Well, we didn't think he was. He trained quite well, and he said that his good leg went as soon as the game started, you know, and which was, you know, probably disappointing because I felt that he was really going to burn. He'd been training and felt the best he'd felt for the entire year, so it was a, you know, a bit of a body blow when we had to lose him.
Tony, when Jimmy Jess was in the middle of that slump, as I'll term it, did you feel inclined to put him back to centre-half back? He turned out to be a real focal point at centre-half forward.
Yeah, so, you know, it's just probably one of those things that happened throughout a season that more luck than anything else. Although Jimmy has got a liking for centre-half forward. He has played there quite a bit before, but the fact that we dropped him for the North Melbourne game, and then someone pulled out, I forget now what happened, David Cloak or someone pulled out because of injury, so we put Jimmy in at centre-half forward, and Stephen Mount went to centre-half back. Well, Stephen played very well at centre-half back, and Jimmy played very well at centre-half forward, so it was just, you know, one of those lucky things that worked out well for us.
Was it hard not to put Cloak at centre-half forward when you brought him back into the side?
No, because we felt that Jimmy had played centre-half forward exactly how we wanted him to play it, and you know, we didn't even entertain the idea of playing David at centre-half forward, mainly a lot because of his fitness as well as anything else. Not that we felt that that his heel was going to worry him, but just because of his match fitness, we felt he'd be a problem to Collingwood in the forward pocket. But as it worked out, it was.
Tom, we know you and understand your feelings for Kevin Bartlett. You know, why Kevin Morris? Because he was a former a teammate, or what?
Well, actually, Kevin Morris had played reasonably well on Kevin at Victoria Park. Kevin Bartlett annihilated us at the Melbourne Cricket Ground back in June without Kevin Morris being on him. We just thought Kevin was probably his experience and his finals performances might have been best. But I couldn't blame Kevin Morris for the goals that Kevin scored. I I think that the way Richmond kicked the ball, that it wouldn't have made any difference who kicked the goals on him. But I suppose, looking back over it now, it might have been better to put somebody else on him at the start of the game.
Tony, much has been said about the Kevin Bartletts and the Francis Burkes and those players that we know are real stars. What about a few of the unsung heroes? I'll let you name them.
I'm glad you gave me the opportunity. Blokes like Terry Smith have been invaluable this year, and Peter Welsh, another one, who, you know, came back from... well, he was reserves in the 19th man in the reserves to come up and play such an important part for us in the finals. You know, Greg Strawn, yeah, Stephen Mount. There's just dozens of them, of course. You know, Dale Waitman. You can go on and on.
Well, thanks, Tony, and congratulations from everybody at World of Sport. And Tom, congratulations on getting Collingwood there. Commiserations for yesterday.
Well, Tom did create a record because Collingwood made the 5 from 5th position, which you should be very proud of. I know you're disappointed, Tom, and congratulations to you, Tony. But for coming into World of Sport, we've got something marvellous for you from the people that sponsored the grand final yesterday. That's Mulinex, $190 worth of, there's a fruit processor with a blender attachment, a juice separator and a whipper attachment also. There it is on screen, a magnificent prize to take home. And that's appreciation for coming in, boys.
Thanks very much. Yes, that's from the sponsor of the VFL sponsor of the grand final, Mulinex. And you boys have been great friends of ours all the year here at World of Sport. I don't think you've missed a Sunday, either of you. And we certainly appreciate it, and we'd like you to this is a little set of crystal, and I'm certain that Maureen and Margot will like it very much. I know, Tommy.
It's very good to turn up.
But it's great to see you, and thanks for your help all through the year.
Turn up, Tom. Swooping on the ball beautifully as he should. The ball is...
Lviv St. Laurent had a hand in moulding footballers. Richmond centre-man Jeff Rains would certainly score full marks for perfection of style. At 21, he again demonstrated his class before almost 140,000, 14,000 at the MCG yesterday, with his great pace, fantastic ball control and skills. He was the maestro of the midfield in Richmond's premiership win, gaining a total of 36 possessions for the game, 12 of them handballs that snapped into the waiting hands of teammates. Rains, a player originally tied to Footscray, with whom the Tigers engineered a release after realising his enormous talent, admits himself that since his club best and fairest award in 1978, he's matured greatly as a player. He's played in the last 2 State of Origin carnivals for Victoria, and on yesterday's form looks certain to be helping the state again in Adelaide in a fortnight's time. Selectors would have only had to see the former Swan Hill champion monopolising the ball against the Magpies to realise that Rains was a necessity. Jeff would have gained some compensation too after learning that the 2 field umpires would have voted him one of the best of field. That is, if the Brownlow medal took the finals into account. Jeff Rains, a magnificent performance yesterday in Richmond's premiership win over Collingwood.
Well, Jeff, congratulations on a fine effort yesterday, and no doubt you're terribly happy with Richmond's performance and that of your own. Talking about the Brownlow medal, before we get on to the final, how did you feel after not receiving a vote in the Brownlow?
Oh, well, you know, the rumours that were around town, I had no idea, you know, I gave myself no chance, but I thought I would have maybe got a couple of votes, but, you know, that's the way it goes, and after Monday night I probably had more incentive to do well. You know, I was, well, probably more embarrassed than anything, Kevin, and sitting there in front of an audience and you don't get a vote was very embarrassing.
What was it like at school the next day with the boys? Did they give you a bit of a hard time at, what is it, St. Joseph's, North Melbourne?
Yeah, I just told them not to talk, Kev.
Not to talk?
Not to talk.
Right, let's get back to the grand final now. Tony Jewell has mentioned a couple of times about the club having a dream about where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. Now, where did you feel it all started from?
Well, as Tony just said, I believe that, you know, we were humiliated last year, coming 8th, and I thought...
Do you think 8th is that bad? I mean, do you think all clubs around about 8th on the ladder should feel humiliated?
I believe that we had a fair, you know, our personnel was good, and we didn't make the most of it. I think one of the main factors is the maturing of some of our younger players.
Players like?
Mark Lee, Dale Waitman, Stephen Mount. You know, you can go on, as Tony said before, Greg Strawn. You know, and I made a comment at the start of the year, if those guys can just take that big step, you know, that we would be a big chance. And, you know, I think that it speaks for itself now.
And what steps do you feel that the Richmond club have changed in the last 12 months to come from 8th to a premiership, which is probably as good an effort from any of the teams that have won premierships in the last 20 years?
Well, it's hard to pinpoint, Kevin. I suppose blokes like yourself around the club, and I'm not patting you on the back here, I think you've done a wonderful job with our schools. Blokes like Rudy Webster, motivational.
Well, what's this? What now? Look, we get different conflicts here. What's this Rudy Webster like?
Well, he's not a witch doctor, that's for sure, Kevin. But
is he black magic?
No, he's not black magic. But you know,
well, I saw that that little thing he had around his neck last night. He had his hoodoo beads
on last night. Yeah, that's
Goodness
right.
gracious me.
But I just believe that we streamlined certain areas that were probably falling down in.
What were they?
Well, as I said, skills, probably a little bit of motivation, training conditions, improving the facilities at the ground. You know, all
Do you think
these
that
things,
can lift players?
Sure. You know, sure. You know, I believe that the ground wasn't in good nick. The surface of the ground's been unbelievable all year to train on. We've got nets up there at the end of one goal square where we can just kick it and kick and kick into the goal square, you know, for goal. And things like that surely do lift you, yes, Kevin.
Right. Is there any truth in the rumour that you and Jack had an altercation during the week by the look of your face?
Yes, Jack canned him all the year, too.
Yeah, I've been looking for
Jack.
Jack.
Jack, come over here and cop it sweet.
Come on, Jack. Over you come.
Come on, mate.
Come on
you
now.
canned him?
Yes, you give him a hard time.
I've been looking for Jack. I'm after you, Jack, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, go on. What are you going to say, Jeff?
Oh, I just thought he was a friend of mine, that's all right.
Well, hey, listen, pretty boy. You're not pretty boy any longer, are you? Look at the cut across. He's a man, Jack. He's got a bit of blood on his forehead. Come over and have a look at it, mate.
Come over.
He's a man now. He's arrived. Jack is a man. Just test him out, mate.
Just come and compare
This is accident-prone Jack Dyer coming over.
Like two women comparing their scars, aren't they?
He's a man, is he?
Yeah, he said arrived at last.
That's a compliment from Jack Dyer.
That is a compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, now break his collarbone, Jack. Haven't broke one for 5 minutes. So wait a minute.
Jack's been breaking front fenders lately.
Look, you stick to the straight man stuff. You've got the Brazil nuts from Valentine's. You've got the chocolate gingers, but also the Thomas Hardy Grand Reserve champagne. And this is from Moulinex. This is a magnificent automatic yogurt maker. You like yogurt?
Oh, not really.
Well, you have it now. Don't knock the sponsor because they did a marvellous job for us and they sponsored the VFL Grand Final. Now stop that, pretty boy.
Right. Jeff Range, one of the best players, one of the great players for Richmond yesterday in the 1980 Grand Final.
The football